what's the difference between affect and effect?
That's a great question.
It's a great question, and everybody screws it up. Lindy, I'm going to pick on you. I just thought it was your morning this morning. Lindy, and if you get it wrong, you'll be joining the rest of the world. How do you differentiate between affect and effect? It's a tough question. I'm picking on you because I think you're bright. Prove me wrong. I'm just kidding.
I know I've heard it multiple times, but I can't.
You can't figure out, can you? I bet a lot of people mix affect and effect up, correct?
Correct.
Affect is
Well done, Brooklyn.
Is it the one with the A going away from the heart? Is that what you're
Oh,
talking
no,
about?
not just the heart, just generally what is...
Oh.
Oh, do you mean afferent and efferent? Well, that's where they come from, afferent and efferent. Afferent is always going back centrally. Efferent is always going away. Yeah, that's...
Yeah, that's what I thought you were.
Motor nerves are efferent and sensory are afferent. Yeah, we know that, yep. So, but generally, what's the definition of afferent?
Is the
Say again?
affect with the A is the verb form, or effect is the verb form, and affect
To do.
is like the influence it has on the.
All right, okay, so it's raining, and I felt the effect of the rain. So I put an umbrella up, and I poked her in the eye with the umbrella, and Cabra felt the... Got it? Yes or no? Are you sure? Everybody okay with that?
I felt the effect of the rain.
You felt the effect of the rain. I stuck my umbrella up, poked you in the eye, and that affected you.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
it. Everybody okay with
That's what I
affect
thought
and
you said.
effect? I did.
I was trying to understand it through the British.
Oh, sure, to listen, okay. So no, because I was going to write the word affector. It's not. It's affect, isn't it? So affect. That came out of. That would be affect.
Okay, wait, what's the black thing?
Oh, no idea.
The
That's,
neck?
That's receptor.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So they're both effectors then?
No, that's effect. Oh, yeah. I'm just saying. What is the effect and what's the effect?
Oh, I see.
What happens? Okay, right. So let's look at the heart.
Okay, wait, are you looking, is organ like all organs, or are you saying
that's
those
all these
organs?
organs. Let's put those on there.
Oh, okay.
So we're going down there. These are the organs. So the three organs we're concerned about on cardiopulmonary is heart and lungs, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So, what's the receptor on the parasympathetic in the heart, please? Julie, what's the answer again?
What's that?
Muscarinic.
Thank you. Right, so the receptor in the heart, parasympathetic, is muscarinic, correct? Thank you. What's the effect of parasympathetic on the heart? We get a
Decreased heart rate.
the effect is a decrease in heart rate and a decrease in inotropic, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The effector is an agonist. You're going to create what we call an agonistic response. What do you mean by agonist? What the response is, if I agonize something, I get that response. So if you agonize the parasympathetic, your heart rate will go down and your inotropic effect will also go down. Okay? So what is the effect on the sympathetic? The heart is a what type of receptor? It's a
Beta 1.
beta 1 receptor. What's the effect?
Increased heart rate.
Tachycardia, an increase in heart rate and an increase in inotropic. We call that a positive inotropic and we call that a negative. Now, therefore, that would be an agonist, correct? Because if you stimulate,
And you get that response.
you will get that response. So that will be an agonist. It's an agonistic response. Bailey, what are you looking at, kid? Yeah. Increase in heart rate, increase in inotropic. We've got a positive inotropic. it's going to agonize. You agonize the sympathetic side, those are the results. You okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go on to the bronchi. What type of receptor do we have for the bronchi and the vessels, parasympathetic?
No, that's for the sympathetic. Oh, cool.
Look at each. I gave you a handout the other day. Have a look at the parasympathetic on the vessels.
Adrenergic?
No, parasympathetic on the vessels.
They don't exist.
Say again?
They don't exist.
They do not exist. There is none. Right? You can't have a parasympathetic to the vessels. Is there a parasympathetic to the bronchi? Have a look. Say again?
No, that's sympathetic.
Oh, let's do it the other way around then. What about the bronchi on the sympathetic?
Beta
Lines of
2.
bronchioles. They are,
Beta 2.
right? Bronchi beta 2? What's the effect? What's going to happen to them?
They're
They're going to
dilation.
dilate, correct? Okay? So therefore it's an agonist. It's creating that response that you want, correct?
Mm-hmm.
What about on the vessels? Alpha 1, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You can agonize, correct? And what will you get? So tell me what goes on, please, in the bronchioles on the parasympathetic side. It's in front of you. That's correct. Arm?
Decreases airflow.
So it's gonna, it's good, it's an antagonistic. And we get constriction. And this guy, absolutely nothing. And you should now be able to figure out why there is no stimulus parasympathetically to the vessels. You can make the vessels get bigger, but that's not a neural response, that's a humoral response, nitric oxide or something like that. Okay? So that's a chart you probably want to remember. But the reason for doing this, I've introduced you, I hope, to two new words. One is agonist, and the other one is antagonist. Okay? So, here's where we're moving on to. If something mimics a response, it's called a mimetic. So if something mimics a response, it's called a mimetic. If it opposes the response, it's called olytic. Olytic. So you're either olytic. Yeah? I'll do it all for you. Okay. So we can have you people did medical terminology. Sympathomimetic. What does that mean then? It mimics the sympathetic response. Or we can have, yeah, we can have sympatholytic. That means it gives an opposite response. That would be an antagonistic. So therefore, you can therefore also have parasympathetic. So you have parasympathomimetic. So it mimics the parasympathetic response. So therefore, you can also have Parasympathetic. Okay, and then you can also have parasympathetic. Why? Why? Think about the autonomic nervous system. Think about they are. Be careful about antagonism. You shouldn't really see them as that. You should see it more of yin and yang, where they work together rather than antagonistic. Tends to state that one's working against the other. It makes sense. These aren't. These are working with each other. So it's more of a yin and a yang rather than antagonism. But why do you have to have 4 options and not just 2 options? Go on, explain what you mean by that. Why don't you just have 2?
It allows for more fine control.
Correct. We can really be selective on the type of control we get. Right, what would happen if you took a general beta blocker? Explain, a general beta blocker. Tell me what would happen. Is that an antagonistic or an agonistic?
Antagonist.
So blocker.
Antagonist.
So it would be an antagonist, correct? So you're going to take a beta blocker, which is a general antagonistic of beta receptors. Make sense? Tell me what would happen.
Doesn't it block like the uptake?
Well, no, just explain the effects of a beta blocker. Lower your heart rate, lower your heart power, but at the same time, what else would it do?
Increase constriction.
You get constriction of your bronchioles, and what would happen to the vessels? Nothing.
Nothing.
Now, would you want to take something that created bronchoconstriction?
No.
No. And so your problem is, when you take drugs, is you need to have different options. Like, what would happen, let's do the vessels. Let's say that you could put an alpha-1 blocker in. What would happen?
Doesn't cause dilation.
Cause that, what would happen if you made a mistake and you've already got hypertension?
Your blood pressure's gonna tank.
Yeah.
And so what you have to have in the pharmacological industry and your understanding of the heart and lungs in particular is that when drugs are involved, you've got to have different options so that the side effect of the drug, if you take a general blocker, then anything that's a beta receptor, a general blocker, anything that's a beta receptor will be blocked. And because you've got type 1, beta 1 receptors and beta 2 receptors, and they typically are antagonistic with each other, you can't just block beta receptors. It makes sense, you're not. So you've got to be aware of what the receptors are and what is the best route to get the response that you want. Okay with that? Yes or no? Yes. Good. Well, let's find out, because this is going to be fun for me, not so much for you.
It's kind of like if you had a light, like if you could only control lights with a light switch, it's either on or off.
Yeah, that would be useless.
But
Whereas,
like
like, a
trying to
dimmer.
control such a like a fine tuning kind of thing.
You put a dimmer switch on. don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. So let's find out what you know.
I know nothing.
You know lots. Are you guys okay with this? So you'll take drugs that are going to be parasympathetic, and will mimic the parasympathetic response. But you then have to be selected. Are you going to block alpha receptors, beta receptors, beta 1 receptors, beta 2 receptors? Or are you going to agonize? And that's the good side of having options. Okay? So, we've got 10 minutes. It's about time you guys start to do some work. Okay, ready?
Okay.
Just get in. Right. Let's kind of enjoy this if we possibly can. If it's possible. And this is for you, Pedro. You can elaborate a little bit on.
First I thought something different. It almost looked like somebody wearing a clown suit.
Yeah.
Like this could have been really bad.
This could be bad.
This could be bad. could do that. Sorry I couldn't help you yesterday. I was dying.
Oh no, it's okay. I made the boy do it. It was really funny.
Jesus.
He didn't quite.
He's committed to it. It's fine.
Oh yeah. He's now stuck. So sex to suck.
Cha-cha-cha-cha, suck.
Yeah. Okay. Everybody recognises that. Obviously, you recognise it as being an axon, yeah, a nerve, a neuron. Okay. Just out of interest, I asked you that question the other day about. Oh no, you tell me. What's the difference between adrenaline? You don't answer because I know you know. What's the difference between a noradrenaline and adrenaline, or norepinephrine and epinephrine?
Very slight chemical structure.
There is slight chemical difference. One carries a methylene group at the end and the other one doesn't. So, noradrenaline is synthesized where? Pedro, where?
Medulla?
No, not noradrenaline.
Oh,
That's what you said.
Where is noradrenaline synthesized? Where is adrenaline synthesized? Adrenal medulla.
Yes.
Adrenaline is synthesized in the adrenal medulla.
mhm.
Where is mostly noradrenaline synthesized?
In the
Inside of the axon. That's a big difference between the two. So we get noradrenaline is synthesized in here. Do you guys know where adrenaline, which molecules does adrenaline come from? Do you know? Okay, it comes from 2 amino acids. What?
Tyrosine?
Well done, and
Um,
PHE. Phenylalanine.
okay.
Okay, yeah. So you make, whether it's adrenal medulla or whether it's inside of the axon, you make adrenaline or noradrenaline from thyroxine and or phenylalanine. One's an essential amino acid and one isn't. And so you synthesize your noradrenaline here, whereas you synthesize your adrenaline in the adrenal medulla. Okay, so that's a big difference that I tried to find out the other day what you knew. Yeah,
Okay, so noradrenaline is thyroxine or phenadrenaline?
particularly thyroxine.
Okay.
They both need thyroxine and phenylalanine,
Mm-hmm.
but one is synthesized inside the noradrenaline is synthesized
Yeah.
inside the axon, whereas adrenaline is synthesized in the adrenal medulla.
Okay.
By the way, adrenaline only means next to the kidney. That's a Latin meaning next to the kidney. Yeah.
Phenylalanine.
Right.
Phenylalanine.
So- Come on, guys, help me out here. What channel is that? Action potential comes down this way. Yep. So we know that that's sodium potassium dependent, correct?
Mhm.
Yes.
This channel here is a calcium channel. Okay, so if I wanted to stop a neurotransmitter being released, all I'd have to do is block the calcium channel, correct? Yes.
Mhm.
What would be wrong with that? If I take a general calcium blocker,
Then also.
Yeah.
In your life?
you're going to die because what's that first? Remember we said you have your action potential, your heart.
Yeah.
You got the zero phase, then you the 1, and then you got the plateau. What's the plateau determined by?
Calcium.
Calcium influx. Better not take a calcium blocker then, a general calcium blocker. But that could be an option, correct? Right. Not an option here, not a good idea. But you can get calcium. Right.
What's the shirt thing? What is AS?
That's an enzyme. That's an active site.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Come on, you know that. What's that
I mean-
enzyme that washes away acetylcholine? Cholinesterase. Right. So you've got an enzyme called cholinesterase, correct?
Mhm.
All right. So how could we make changes to this scenario? Well, if we block the calcium channels, would you agree that the neurotransmitter wouldn't be released?
Mhm.
Then we could potentially do that. Would that be a good idea?
No.
Not a good idea. So that's fine. What about, could we somehow keep more neurotransmitter in the synapse? And if we did, we'd get a better or a stronger response if we were on use like that. So how could we increase the number? Give me 2 ways that we could increase the number or concentration of neurotransmitter in the synapse.
Do calcium or inhibit.
Let's leave the calcium alone because we don't want to go down the calcium. I don't want to, you're going to die.
Block the active site
Say again?
on the enzyme.
Correct. Block the active site on the enzyme. Well done. So therefore, you would take a inhibitor, an antagonistic. Good job. You would take an antagonistic drug that will block the enzyme. Correct? What else could you do? Instead of being washed away, what if you don't wash all of this away and you don't take it? What happens to it?
Goes in.
It's reuptaken. Correct? So what else could you potentially do?
Block reuptake.
Block the reuptake.
Oh,
So let's block that.
is that what, like the SS something?
No, it's even a better drug. Cocaine.
Woo!
Okay, we talk about coke all the time, I just forget the
Yeah,
cancer.
cocaine. Cocaine's job is, all it does is it blocks the reuptake, and so you end up hypersensitive. But eventually, over time, you run out of neurotransmitter. So another option is block that. Once again, we're blocking, so it's an antagonist, correct? Right. Now then, we're going to antagonize this, agreed? But what's the overall response?
Still more.
Yeah, we're going to antagonize that, but we'll end up with an agonistic response here. Does that make sense? So once again, be careful of the drug. Make sense or not?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now then, what could we do if we wanted to say that muscle, or it could be a nerve, but let's say let's not go into ganglia. Let's say this from a muscle. What else could we do? We wanted to reduce the response. What would you do to this receptor?
Block those receptors.
You block that receptor, so that would be again an antagonist. Curare would do that on muscle. Curares. Okay. Indians use it. Atropine before you have an operation. You guys familiar with atropine? Okay. Please look up the following, please, will you? Please look up atropine. That's a really common drug used in when you go for an operation. And so what I'm trying to get out of you this morning, at the moment, is that there are so many options to get results. There isn't just a straight shot. And so your job, I'm going to give you a fairly difficult assignment. This is going to be your midterm exam. It's going to be, like I've told you, it's going to be delivered with levity, but it's very, very hard to do. So the reason I'm doing it for you is because when it comes to the heart and lungs, because of the different type of receptors and the responses, you've got to be able to very clearly figure out which option is the best option when you know there's so many options available to get a response. The problem is you might get that response, but what else might you get?
Side effects.
More
Side
than
effects, more harmful response. And so those people are going to go on to, anybody got a PT score in this class? Oh, why? I wonder why I said that. You have to take pharmacology. Well, you should. You probably will end up taking pharmacology. And this is what this is all about, and that's what makes it good. So your understanding about the autonomic nervous system, heart and lungs is really important. Okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm going to stop there. Now,